So in the previous video, we spoke about the principle BSDF. In this video, we'll be talking about how to apply texture onto our platform. Hey everyone, welcome to this video. So in this video, we're going to go right into texturing our mug. Let me just quickly delete this cube, select X, and deleted selected object. Now we can decide to, like I mentioned earlier, we can decide to change our values over here, but it's not the most ideal. This properties panel is just to help you with if you want to make quick changes. But if you want to go more in depth into your into modeling your, or rather into texturing or shading your mug, we would have to go to the shading panel. So now we're in the shading panel. I usually close these two windows because I don't use them so much. You can just come to the intersection here, right click, and then join areas, and then join this area. Do the same thing here, join area. So with this we have more space. Now if you remember our our different shading modes, just to quickly explain again, the shading mode just gives you a generic light. But if you want to have more detail, if you want to have more information, if you want to have a lighting setup you'd like to control, even though we'll go into that a little bit more later, you would switch to your viewport shading mode. And you can see everything is dark. If you remember earlier, we deleted our point light. We're going to go into different type of lights later, but now let's just add a normal point light and leave it as it is, just to light our scene. Once you add your lights, just drag it all the way up, and you can see that it's lighting our scene a little bit. We're going to go into lighting a little bit more later, but I would like us to touch on every single thing, or anything we're going to fully cover a little bit later, extensively, so that you have a rough idea of what we're getting into. So once your light is selected, just increase the power, and let's drag it a little bit to the side, so we can see our well-lit cup or coffee mug, whatever you want to refer to it as. So now also, before we get into shading, if I select our model, don't worry about this. When you switch to shading mode, it's going to come back to viewport shading. Just change it back to the render mode. Before we get into that, our final render, I would like our cup to be sitting on a surface. Now that surface might be anything. If you want it might be wood, it might be ceramic, it might be plastic, it might be metal, but for now I would like our mug to sit on something. So let's just go ahead and add a plane and press S, and then scale it up a little bit, and you can see we have something like a platform where our mug can sit on. I'm just going to make sure, if you notice, it's not directly sitting on our mug is not directly sitting on the plane. We can do a couple of things to get more precise information on where our cube is. If you have a numpad on your keyboard, you can use your numpad to switch to different view angles, right? So the numpad in Blender is a quick way to switch between different views in your scene. So the top view is 7 on your numpad, the front view is 1 on your numpad, the right view is 3 on your numpad, and so on and so forth. If you want to now do the bottom view, you do Control and 7 is going to bring you to the bottom of your scene. If you want to do to the right of your, because let's say this is the number 3 on our numpad, takes us to the right of our view. If we want to do to the left, we'll hit Control on our keyboard and hit 3 again, and it flips us to the other side. Same thing goes for the front view. If we press 1 on our numpad and we do Control 1, it's going to flip us to the other side. So it's a very good and quick way to navigate in your scene and just get a more precise understanding of where everything is in your scene. So just keep that in mind. If you don't have a numpad, you can use these arrows on your top right left click on your Z, it's going to take you to your top. If you left click on your X, it's going to take you to your side. If you left click on your Y, it's going to take you to your other side. So you can also use this to navigate. Now again, before we move on, don't get too discouraged on how everything looks. At the end of this video, I'm going to show you a magic button that is going to make everything look realistic. Let's go back to our shading mode. Oh, I forgot to adjust our mug. So if I just press R on my numpad, you see that our mug is not sitting with our with our plane. So what we can do is so just know that your plane is, if your cursor is in the world origin, if you remember, just Shift S and then cursor to world origin. If your cursor is in the world origin and you import your plane, it's most likely going to be at the center. So just know that this green line is where we want our mug to be sitting on. If I just drag it down, it should be sitting on our plane now. So let's just go back to shading, and yeah, let's get into that. So we have different ways of shading in Blender. We can decide to go the procedural way, which means we're going to use nodes to build our our texture, but then we can go with the image texture route, which means we'll be using actual images, we'll be using actual textures to feed into our color. Let me quickly just make a new material. We'll be using, as opposed to just this base color that would change the color of our material to whatever we select, we can use an actual image and feed it to our base color, and Blender will use that as the color of our plane, as opposed to just this plain texture, which doesn't look so realistic or good. Now don't worry, we're most likely going to mix both together. We're going to add more details onto, but don't worry, in the next video we're going to add details using nodes. So we're going to go a little more in depth into nodes, but for now I'm just going to show you the basics of image textures and whatnot. So before we add textures to our mug, let's add texture to our floor, or rather to our platform. So if you're probably not following, you can add textures in two different ways. If you're in the shading mode, you're going to have this this panel. If you come to layout, it's not here, but if you come to shading, you're going to have this panel. It's called the shader editor. So you can add your materials through here, through the properties panel. That's one option, and then you can also add your materials through the shader editor, which, if you see this big button that says new, you just left click and you have your material. We're going to get materials we need for both our mug and our platform, and what we'll be using is a site called Polyheaven. So just go to your browser and type Polyheaven and click on this first result. Polyheaven is a website that offers free materials and textures you can use in your project. So we're going to get our textures from here, and when you get to the website, just click on textures, and when you click on textures, you're going to see these categories. So I'm thinking for the platform that our mug sits on should be a wood material, so we can come all the way to this wood material, and or rather wood section, and pick one that works for us. Now in this part of the video, I would advise you follow exactly what I do, but if you're a little bit advanced, you can pick any material that works for you or any texture that works for you. But yeah, this is where you can basically go with a different variation from what I'll go for, because basically all the textures are applied the same way. So you can use different I can use this material, and then you can use this material, and applying the material to the model, it's basically the same. So I'm just going to come to, let's see, which one would we go for? Something a little bit polished. I think I'll go for something like this wood table. and when you click on that material, just come to you just come select the resolution you want. I would suggest a 4K, so it's not too heavy, and then you can come to the application and you can, or rather you can, to the format. I'm going to I'll pick Blender, and basically when we pick Blender, it's just going to download a blend file for us and also include the textures in the folder as well. So this doesn't change anything, but yeah, I won't mind having a blend file. So yeah, once you make sure this is on Blender, you can just hit download and your download should start. So once you've downloaded your texture, I'm just quickly going to, let me see, where is this at? Let me open the folder. So it's most likely going to show up in your download. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extract this. Just right click on your folder, extract all, and this should come up, and you just tell it to extract here, and then you just double click, and you can either click on this, but we don't need to open the Blender file because we want to do this thing from scratch. Just click on textures, and you should have these 4 files. You should have your diffuse map. Your diffuse map is basically just your color. You should have your displacements. We're not going to use the displacement map in this video. And then you should have your normal map, and then you should have your roughness map. I'll explain what the normal map is a little bit later. But yeah, you should have this 4. We're going to be using this 3 out of this 4. But yeah, so once you have your textures ready, before we get into adding the materials on our wood, there's an add-on that I will most likely be using to make texturing a little bit easier. It's just going to help me add nodes it's just going to enable me to use shortcuts to add nodes and do several different things. So just go to edit, preferences, come to add-ons and search for node. So you see the add-on called Node Wrangler. Just enable it, and I would advise you have this always open or always enabled. So just go to the bottom left click, save preferences, and yeah, that's basically it. So we're going to go ahead and bring in our texture, so one by one, and see and merge it with our node. So also before we do that, let me just quickly go to the properties panel on your right, come to world, this circle and the rod going through the circle. Basically this controls your world, like literally the world, your 3D world, light or color. So you can see that I can change this to whatever I want, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here to just reduce the light a little bit so that we can have more focus on what's happening here. So yeah, that's that for that. So what we can do is come to this yellow dot, left click on it and drag. You're going to see a plus sign. Let's go, and a menu should come up, and then you type image, and you should see image texture color. So just click on that, so you can see it's entirely black. So what you can do is left click, go to downloads, go to your wood table or your texture, go on textures, and then click on your DIFF, which stands for diffuse. Basically that's your color, and you left click and you see, wow, we finally have a texture on one of our platform, and it looks really nice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to left click on my lights, come all the way, navigate all the way to the light bulb, which is called data, come to the power and just increase it a little bit more so that we can see more details on that. And you can see that our texture is quite good, a little bit realistic, but it's still not there, and we can make it even more realistic. We can even make it more better. So what we can do is we can add our roughness map, and what we can simply do is you can come to the roughness and go to the circle preceding the roughness values, and just left click like we did for the top, and you see a plus sign, and let's go and type in image, and you would see the image texture, basically the same thing. and you'd see that our material becomes a little bit weird. Don't worry, it's because we have not put in our roughness in here. So what we can do is left click again, come to downloads, come to wood, texture, and then navigate to your roughness. Your roughness should just be called rough. It's basically this black and white image. Don't mistake it for your displacement map. We won't get to displacement map in this video, maybe in intermediate, because it's a little bit tricky. And double left click and you see that. So now it's still a little bit weird, and the reason why that is because in Blender your roughness maps are grayscale data, meaning they're black and white and they have no color information. Now Blender is right now trying to extract color information as opposed to grayscale data. If I hit Control left shift, you'd see that this is a black and white data, and that's what we want to tell Blender to do. So just go to your roughness, left click on color space, and tell Blender that you want this to be non-color. So once you do that, you would see that we're having a more realistic texture. You can see that it's more disruptive, is more realistic, is more, basically it's better than what we had. So that's for that. So now let me quickly increase the light of my world a little bit, maybe back to 1. Yeah, let me just leave that there. And yeah, this is our material, but it can be better. That's the honest truth, it can be better. And this is where your normal map comes in. And what is your normal map? Your normal map basically fakes details that simulate small bumps without changing the actual geometry. It makes the 3D objects look a little bit more real. So your bump basically is this image. If I should just do Shift A, texture, and what you can do is image texture, and yeah, left click, and come to downloads, wood, textures. Your normal texture is this purple texture. It looks really weird, but don't worry, just open it, and once you open it, once you put in your normal, just drag the color all the way to the normal map or the normal circle, and yeah, you have a very weird, you most likely have a very weird result. So what you can also do is you come to your color space again and say non-color, and tell Blender that no, we're not trying to extract the color from the picture, we're just trying to use the image itself. Now once you do that, you think that everything will be fine, but no, we need to add one more node. Now remember that Blender has a node based system, meaning I can stack more. Let me give a quick example with that. So what that means is I can stack more nodes in between these two nodes. You see this string, I can add more nodes in between the string. So to quickly demonstrate that, I'll just Shift A, color, hue and saturation, add this. Now what we can do with this node is we can basically adjust the color of our material or our texture. Basically, you can see that I can reduce the saturation, I can increase the value, I can change the hue to a different color. So basically the node system just gives us flexibility when it comes to adjusting, extracting, and removing, adding different details. So just give that. So we need to do something similar for our normal. So we need to use a node so that Blender can be able to read our normal map. So what we can do is we can search and then type in normal, and then you see the normal map. Now you left click on the normal map, you drag this node in between these two nodes, rather in the middle of the string. It doesn't have to be in the middle, but just drag it in between those two nodes and let go, and you still see that, and you see that we have some detail to what an actual wood material would look like, or rather what an actual table would look like. So you can increase the strength. That is a little bit too high, but we can increase the strength to maybe 0.5, and you see that we have something like an actual table in our image. So what you see is that we have something like an actual table. So what you can see is that we have an actual material to our table. So yeah, that's for that. That's that for that. Now let's go ahead and finally texture. Let's go ahead and finally texture our mug. Now that we've textured the table that our mug will be sitting on, remember we're going to have a magic button that is going to change everything, that is going to make everything more realistic, so don't let this bother you. But let's finally make our mug. That's everything for this video. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Try going through this tutorial again, try changing the color of your material, try different things. In the next video we'll be going over texturing our mug finally.